Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Thinking is Contagious. We are once again here from Miami, ready to discuss a topic of interest, at least on our part of interest. And hopefully, if it's something that you find interesting and have found the previous broadcast interesting, I would ask that you hit the subscribe button. We appreciate the support, we appreciate the help, and we hope that the effort that we're making in some way, shape, or form proves informative to you or leads you to inquire a little further as to what we're speaking about and whether it's factual, not factual. I think you're going to find it. It's factual. Does it come from a conservative context? Absolutely. Having said that, try to base everything on facts. And based on that, I'm going to jump right into these protests, these quote unquote peaceful protests that involve um, burning and pillaging and attacks on people. And I saw Jerry Nadler yesterday, New York State representative. He was questioned. He said, "Hey, about is Antifa involved in this?" And his point was, it's absurd to think Antifa is involved with this. Well, yeah, how absurd is it? I have no doubt that Antifa is involved with it. I think that there's a very large portion, 99% of the protesters are there with peaceful intentions, but nonetheless, it's providing a platform for the manifestation of violence. And the problem here is that that manifestation of violence, that platform for violence, is being provided by the mayors that run these individual cities and then choose to pull a Pontius Pilate and wash their hands and basically say that they have everything under control, telling us that um, there was one, the Oakland mayor, Libby Schaaf, Miss Libby Schaaf, basically coming on television and telling the the violent protesters. She was addressing the people who are looting and burning and pillaging and attacking people, saying, "Stop doing this. Stop with this aggressive behavior. Stop with this violence, because it is what President Trump wants. You're making President Trump look good." Let me ask you something. Is not the reason that they should stop doing it because it's illegal, because it's harmful, because it costs taxpayer money, because innocent people are getting hurt, because it violates the rights of the peaceful protesters from being able to conduct their protests in peace? Is it not right that they should stop the violence because it endangers police officers and their lives? In Seattle, where the mayor, Jenny Darkin, has basically said that everything's under control, a new ordinance came into effect yesterday, this weekend, that ties the police's hands as to what they can or can't do to protect the citizens, the businesses, the homes, and the individuals in Seattle. And guess what that led to? Well, that led to the chief of police in Seattle coming out and basically sending a memorandum to Seattle, to the citizens, to the business owners, saying that in good conscience, based on the new city ordinance that precludes the police from using things such as pepper spray or other forms to suppress violent behavior, in light of the fact that they are no longer allowed to do that, it would be a criminal act to do those things. They will not be able to protect citizens, they will not be able to protect their businesses, they will not be able to do their job. So once again, we run into the situation where the platform is being provided to protect the anarchists. And I have no doubt that the anarchists are very few, a very small portion. It's a paid, agenda-driven group of probably a handful of people, but they're there to cause havoc, cause harm, and never miss the reason that they're there. The reason that they're there is so that this reflects negatively on the administration in Washington. You have Lori Lightfoot in Chicago I have everything under control. Well, 2 weekends ago, 18 people were shot in Chicago in one weekend. I don't want federal troops in here, she says. And at that one point, she finally realizes that there's no choice. She has to accept them. How does she save face? With her left-wing, liberal-leaning, anti-establishment uh, supporters. She tells them, but we caveats it with the acceptance of the troops with the fact that they can take any actions to nullify that if, in their view, the federal troops overstep their boundaries or in any way interfere with how the city runs their business. So we're looking at a situation that there's a group of people on the street, and it's not what the media portrays. It's the incidences are not that many, but they are portrayed and blown out of proportion just to show that the country is in disarray and dismay under President Trump. What they don't show is record number of arrests being done by the federal government for vandalism, for destruction of property, for attacks on people, for violence, for shootings, um, record numbers of arrests across the nation. So there is law enforcement and the law and order administration that we are currently living under is doing their best in spite of and in the face of the mayors of these towns that beat to a different drummer, that have the agenda to suit the left and the agenda to, again, overturn 2016 in any way, shape, or form. Um, we also found curious the fact that most of uh, the targets that these protesters, these violent protesters, are going after are federal buildings. It's funny that they go after federal buildings, and their beef is with municipalities, the police officers that are involved in these acts that lead to these manifestations. They're all city and municipal police officers. I'm not aware of any federal agents, but yet they go after federal buildings. So um, that's also something that I sort of find ironic that uh, would be a factor. I'm going to jump to another topic. The Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Award. Guess who one of the recipients is this year? It's none other than Mr. Colin Kaepernick. And in the brief resume or synopsis published in The Hill, the publication The Hill, that describes what qualified Mr. Kaepernick to receive this award, this is what it says. The 2016 season, he was the first player to begin kneeling before games during the national anthem. That qualifies you for an award in this country. Really interesting. That qualifies you for an award. Same way that Joe Biden's vice presidential nomination, his qualification is first gender. Qualification is gender, and preferably race. So what you're saying, and I know I've touched on this before, but I really want you to think about it. What you're saying, in effect, is whoever I choose is here because they check these two boxes. If we had opened the field to the most qualified, would this person have been the choice? Now, logically, you would say that if you have to quantify and qualify how you're choosing, it's to excuse not choosing the most qualified. Makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you. If, and here's the question I want to ask you, and I'm going to leave it after this one to ponder and think about. What if Donald Trump said he didn't want Mike Pence was not his vice president? Well, let's go back to 2016. And he said, I'm going to choose my vice president to be a white male. It can only come from the demographic of white males. How would that have gone over? Lead balloon, anybody? Okay, those are my thoughts for today. Again, subscribe, please. We need your support. We'd like to send the message and make sure that it gets out and make sure that we also hear back from you. Have a good day.